You were meant to hear this, not by accident, not by chance, and not because an algorithm pushed it in front of your eyes, but because something deeper is at work. There are moments when a voice rises quietly from behind the scenes, not demanding attention yet impossible to ignore. This is one of those moments. When Elon Musk's mother speaks, the world often expects fashion, elegance, or a brief remark about success. But what few people realize is that her words carry the weight of decades lived, storms endured, sacrifices made, and truths earned the hard way. This is not a headline chasing fame. This is a mother who has watched a child transform from a curious boy into one of the most polarizing figures on earth. And who understands the cost of becoming extraordinary in a way very few ever could. Musk does not speak loudly, yet her presence commands attention. She has lived through poverty and abundance, criticism and praise, obscurity and global recognition. She knows what it is to be underestimated. She knows what it is to be blamed, judged, and questioned simply for raising children who refused to fit into the world as it was. When she speaks now, later in life, her words are shaped not by theory but by survival. She does not tell stories to glorify her son. She tells them because she knows how many people are standing where she once stood, unsure, afraid, criticized, and wondering whether endurance is worth the price it demands. She has said, in different ways and different moments, that success is rarely born from comfort. That truth alone unsettles many people. We are trained to believe that ease is the goal, that smooth paths are signs of blessing. Yet her life contradicts this belief entirely. As a single mother, raising 3 children, often with limited financial support, she had no luxury of comfort. There were years when security was an illusion, when stability depended entirely on her resilience. She worked multiple jobs, studied relentlessly, and refused to collapse under the weight of responsibility. She did not have the option to give up. She simply moved forward, even when forward was painful. She watched Elon struggle socially as a child, isolated, bullied, deeply absorbed in books and ideas that few around him understood. She did not try to make him normal to satisfy the world. Instead, she protected his curiosity. That choice matters more than it seems. Many parents unintentionally crush greatness by forcing children to fit expectations designed for safety rather than potential. She chose differently. She allowed her children to be strange, intense, and different, even when others criticized her parenting. She absorbed judgment in silence because she believed in something greater than approval. What she shares now is not a strategy for raising billionaires. It is a message about believing in what cannot yet be proven. She understands that when people see Elon Musk today, they project inevitability onto his success. They assume brilliance guarantees victory. But she knows the truth: brilliance without endurance is fragile. Vision without resilience collapses. The path was never guaranteed. It was fought for, step by step, through failure, humiliation, and relentless doubt. When she speaks about her son's journey, she often emphasizes how close he came to giving up, how many times he faced financial ruin, how many people publicly mocked him when his ideas seemed impossible. She does this not to dramatize his story, but to reveal an uncomfortable reality. Society celebrates outcomes and ignores processes. We cheer victories and forget the years of loneliness that precede them. Her words gently pull the curtain back, reminding us that greatness is rarely glamorous while it is being built. There is something deeply human in the way she speaks about fear. She does not pretend she was fearless. She admits she worried constantly. She feared for her children's safety, their future, their emotional well-being. Yet fear did not stop her from acting. That distinction is crucial. Courage, as she frames it, is not the absence of fear, but the refusal to let fear dictate one's decisions. This perspective resonates far beyond celebrity. It speaks to anyone who feels paralyzed by uncertainty, anyone waiting to feel ready before stepping forward. Her message carries a quiet challenge. Stop waiting for permission. Stop seeking reassurance from people who do not share your vision. Stop measuring your worth by how quickly others understand you. She learned, through experience, that understanding often arrives late. Validation usually follows results, not effort. If she had waited for encouragement, her children's paths might have been dramatically different. She also speaks honestly about independence. She did not raise her children to be dependent on approval, comfort, or security. She raised them to think, to question, and to stand alone when necessary. That kind of upbringing is uncomfortable, especially in a world that equates safety with conformity. But she insists that independence is not cruelty. It is preparation. Life does not cushion you simply because you are talented. It tests you precisely because you are. As she grew older, her own life transformed in unexpected ways. She became a successful model later in life, challenging age norms in an industry obsessed with youth. This part of her story is often overlooked, but it reinforces her philosophy. She does not believe life has an expiration date on relevance. She does not accept that opportunities disappear simply because time passes. Her career blossomed in a stage of life when many believe decline is inevitable. That alone sends a powerful message: reinvention is not reserved for the young. When she speaks now, there is no bitterness in her voice. No resentment toward those who doubted her or her children. Instead, there is clarity. She understands that hardship shaped them. That struggle refined their focus. That resistance strengthened their resolve. She does not romanticize suffering, but she refuses to deny its role in forging strength. Her words feel particularly meant for those who feel unseen. For parents raising children who don't fit molds. For dreamers building ideas no one claps for yet. For individuals who feel late, behind, or disqualified by circumstance. She embodies the truth that timing is personal, not universal. Comparison is a trap. Progress unfolds uniquely for each person willing to persist. There is also a warning embedded in her message. Success amplifies everything, including criticism. She has witnessed how the world turns curiosity into scrutiny and admiration into hostility. She knows that visibility invites projection. People simplify complex lives into headlines and narratives that fit their biases. Through it all, she emphasizes the importance of grounding oneself internally. Fame, money, and attention are unstable foundations. Values, discipline, and self-belief are not. She speaks about kindness in a way that is grounded, not sentimental. Kindness, to her, is not weakness. It is strength exercised with intention. It is choosing integrity when cutting corners would be easier. It is supporting others quietly without expecting recognition. She has lived long enough to know that reputation shifts, but character endures. Listening to her, one realizes this is not really about Elon Musk. It never was. He is a symbol, a visible outcome of principles lived consistently under pressure. The real message is about the unseen forces that shape any extraordinary life: patience, tolerance for discomfort, long-term thinking, and unwavering belief in purpose even when outcomes are uncertain. She does not promise that following these principles will lead to fame or wealth. She promises something far more valuable. She promises that living this way builds resilience, dignity, and self-respect. That even if success never arrives as the world defines it, you will know you lived honestly, bravely, and fully. There is a moment when she reflects on silence. On the years when no one asked for her opinion. When cameras were absent. When survival mattered more than storytelling. She did not know then that anyone would ever care about her perspective. She simply lived it. That detail matters deeply. It reminds us that meaning is not created by attention. It is created by action repeated consistently over time. When she speaks out now, it feels like a closing of a circle. A voice once ignored now heard. A story once private now shared. Not to boast, but to guide. Not to instruct, but to encourage. She does not tell you what to do. She tells you what is possible when fear does not have the final say. This is why you were meant to hear this. Because somewhere inside you, there is something unfinished. Something waiting for permission. Something quietly asking whether it is worth continuing when no one is watching. Her life answers that question without spectacle. Yes. It is worth it. Especially when no one is watching, she reminds us that history rarely remembers comfort. It remembers conviction. It remembers those who endured long enough for the world to catch up. It remembers people who believed before there was proof. And sometimes, those people are not the ones on magazine covers, but the ones standing just behind them, steady, uncelebrated, and unbreakable. Her voice does not shout. It does not threaten or promise miracles. It simply stands firm in truth shaped by experience. If you listen closely, you hear something rare in modern discourse: wisdom without urgency, confidence without arrogance, and hope without illusion. So if you feel tired, misunderstood, or delayed, take this moment seriously. Let her words settle. Let them challenge your assumptions about timing, success, and worth. Not everyone is meant to arrive quickly. Some are meant to arrive strong. She often returns to one quiet truth that doesn't sound impressive on stage but reshapes everything once it sinks in: no one is coming to rescue you. Not because the world is cruel, but because life is designed to reveal what you are capable of when you take responsibility for your own path. She learned this early, long before her son became a symbol of innovation. Responsibility was not a motivational slogan for her, it was survival. Bills did not pause. Fear did not wait. Children needed food, stability, and reassurance even when she herself was unsure. That kind of pressure strips illusions away. It teaches you very quickly what matters and what does not. She does not speak of motivation the way social media does, in short bursts meant to excite and fade. Her understanding of motivation is quieter and heavier. Motivation, she believes, is unreliable. Discipline is not. Passion fluctuates. Purpose steadies. There were days when she woke up exhausted, uninspired, and overwhelmed. Those days still demanded action. And she acted anyway. This, she believes, is the difference between people who build lasting lives and those who merely dream. When she speaks about Elon's risk-taking, she makes something very clear: it terrified her. Watching your child stake everything on ideas the world laughs at is not inspiring when you are a parent. It is terrifying. There were moments when he invested every dollar he had. When failure would not have meant inconvenience but devastation. She does not hide this fear. Instead, she reveals it to dismantle the myth that belief feels calm. Sometimes belief feels like worry carried with grace. She also speaks about letting go, something far harder than holding on. At some point, she had to accept that she could not protect her children from failure without also protecting them from growth. That realization hurts. It means stepping back while watching someone you love walk directly into uncertainty. But she understood that overprotection creates fragility. Strength requires exposure. Confidence is built through experience, not reassurance. There is an unspoken tension in her story that many parents feel but rarely admit: the desire to see your child safe versus the desire to see them fulfilled. Safety is predictable. Fulfillment is not. She chose fulfillment for her children, even when it meant sleepless nights and constant worry. That choice is not heroic in the dramatic sense. It is quiet, ongoing courage. As Elon became more visible, criticism intensified. She saw how quickly admiration turns into hostility when success disrupts existing power structures. She watched narratives form that simplified complex realities into convenient opinions. Through it all, she maintained distance from public noise. Not indifference, but discernment. She understood that reacting emotionally to public opinion gives it power it does not deserve. One of her most striking beliefs is that negativity says more about the critic than the target. People project fears, insecurities, and unresolved frustrations onto visible figures. She has witnessed this pattern repeatedly. The higher someone rises, the more others feel entitled to judge them. Her advice is not to fight every lie, but to keep living the truth consistently enough that noise eventually loses credibility. She also addresses envy in a way that is deeply uncomfortable because it is honest. Envy, she says, often disguises itself as concern or criticism. People question your motives, your ethics, your methods, not always because they care, but because your courage reminds them of risks they did not take. Understanding this allowed her to detach emotionally from judgment without becoming bitter. Her perspective on wealth is equally grounded. Money, she insists, is a tool, not a measure of worth. She experienced periods of having very little and periods of abundance. Neither defined her. What mattered was what she built internally during both. She cautions against idolizing outcomes without understanding responsibilities that come with them. Wealth magnifies both character and consequences. Without values, it becomes a burden rather than a blessing. She often emphasizes learning. Not formal education alone, but relentless self-education. When circumstances changed, she adapted by acquiring new skills. She never allowed herself the comfort of stagnation. The world does not pause out of sympathy. It moves forward. Those who refuse to learn fall behind not because they lack intelligence, but because they resist change. Age, in her philosophy, is not a limitation. It is an asset when combined with humility. She began modeling seriously later in life, not because she chased validation, but because she refused to accept invisible boundaries imposed by others. That decision was not universally welcomed. She faced skepticism, ridicule, and dismissal. Yet she proceeded anyway. Each step forward redefined what was possible for those watching quietly from the sidelines. Her life demonstrates something crucial: reinvention is not betrayal of your past. It is respect for your future. Too many people stay locked in identities they've outgrown because change feels disloyal. She rejected that belief. Growth, to her, is not abandonment. It is evolution. When she addresses young people, she does not flatter them. She challenges them. She warns them that comfort can become a cage if it replaces curiosity. That entitlement dulls resilience. That waiting for perfect conditions delays progress indefinitely. She encourages them to do hard things early, to embrace discipline before life forces it upon them. There is humility in her confidence that feels rare. She does not claim to have all answers. She simply speaks from experience. And experience, when honestly shared, carries authority without needing validation. She does not perform wisdom. She lives it. Her voice becomes especially powerful when she speaks to those who feel ordinary. She dismantles the belief that extraordinary lives are reserved for the gifted or lucky. She insists that consistency outperforms talent over time. That showing up matters more than showing off. That the willingness to endure boredom, repetition, and slow progress is what separates lasting achievement from short-lived attention. She reminds people that failure is not an identity. It is an event. One that can educate rather than define if approached correctly. She watched her children fail repeatedly. She failed herself. But none of those failures became excuses to stop. They became data points, lessons sharpened by humility. This is where her message becomes deeply personal for anyone listening. You do not need to be famous. You do not need to invent anything revolutionary. You need to stay aligned with your values when quitting feels justified. You need to keep moving when progress feels invisible. That is where lives are quietly transformed. She understands that not everyone will be understood in their lifetime. Some people plant seeds they will never sit under. That reality does not diminish the value of the work. Meaning is not measured by applause. It is measured by integrity, so if you find yourself doubting your pace, your path, or your purpose, remember this part of her story. Remember that she built her life without knowing it would ever be seen. That she endured years of silence before her voice carried weight. That strength is often forged privately long before it is recognized publicly. This is not about chasing relevance. It is about becoming unshakable. In the final layer of her message, there is a quiet peace that only comes from having survived enough storms to stop fearing the rain. She no longer feels the need to prove anything. That freedom gives her words a rare weight. They are not chasing relevance, influence, or sympathy. They are simply the truth, offered without urgency. Because she understands something most people learn too late. The most powerful lessons cannot be forced, only received when the listener is ready. She speaks about inner alignment, about how success that costs your peace is too expensive. She has watched ambition consume people from the inside, turning achievement into exhaustion. She has seen how chasing approval creates a hunger that is never satisfied. Her counsel is gentle but firm. Build a life you can live with when the noise fades. Headlines disappear. Public opinion shifts. What remains is who you are alone with your thoughts. she believes deeply in self-respect. Not the loud kind that demands recognition, but the quiet kind that governs decisions when no one is watching. She insists that integrity is the true currency of a fulfilled life. Without it, even the highest achievements feel hollow. With it, even small lives feel rich in meaning. When she reflects on motherhood now, she speaks not in terms of sacrifice alone, but in terms of trust. Trusting her children to become who they were meant to be, not who the world expected. Trusting herself to endure seasons of uncertainty without bitterness. Trusting time to reveal the value of persistence. That trust was tested repeatedly, but it held. She acknowledges regret without dwelling in it. There were moments she wishes had been easier, words she wishes she had said sooner, fears she wishes had been lighter. But she does not allow regret to rewrite her story. Regret, to her, is a teacher, not a judge. It informs the future without imprisoning the past. One of the most profound insights she shares is about loneliness. She admits that the path of independence is often isolating. When you think differently, live differently, and refuse to conform for comfort, you will spend time alone. She does not present this as a flaw. She presents it as a season. Loneliness, when understood, becomes clarity. It teaches you who you are without external influence. She urges people not to confuse being alone with being lost. Some of the most important growth happens in silence. Some clarity only emerges when distractions fall away. She learned to be comfortable with herself long before the world paid attention, and that inner stability became her anchor. As she watches the world grow louder, faster, and more reactive, she emphasizes the importance of patience. Quick reactions create shallow outcomes. Deep lives require slow thinking. She encourages restraint in speech, intention in action, and humility in success. These values, she believes, are timeless. Even when trends change, she does not idolize her son, and that restraint itself speaks volumes. She recognizes his achievements without denying his humanity. She understands that greatness does not erase flaws. It magnifies them. This realism protects her from illusion and keeps her grounded. Her message also touches on legacy. Not legacy in the sense of names remembered, but impact felt. The small choices that ripple outward quietly. The kindness shown when it is inconvenient. The strength modeled without explanation. She believes legacy is built daily, not announced ceremonially. She speaks to those who feel late, telling them that life is not a race but a rhythm. Some people bloom early, others later. Neither is superior. What matters is authenticity. Living according to someone else's timeline leads to regret. Honoring your own creates peace. There is a deep compassion in the way she addresses failure. She removes its shame. Failure, she insists, is not evidence of inadequacy. It is proof of effort. People who never fail rarely try. Growth demands risk, and risk includes loss. Accepting this frees people to act courageously. As her voice softens toward the end of her reflections, there is a sense of completion without finality. She is not offering conclusions. She is offering continuity. A reminder that life is lived forward but understood backward. That meaning reveals itself gradually, often only in hindsight. She leaves listeners with something subtle but powerful: permission. Permission to be imperfect. Permission to be patient. Permission to pursue difficult paths without guaranteed outcomes. Permission to value character over applause. If you listen closely, what she truly offers is reassurance without illusion. She does not say everything will work out easily. She says you will become strong enough to handle whatever comes if you remain aligned with who you are. That strength, once built, cannot be taken away, so if you felt drawn here, if something in her story resonated quietly, trust that instinct. Not every message arrives wrapped in clarity. Some arrive as recognition. A mirror held up at the right moment. A voice reminding you that endurance matters, that integrity matters, that your unseen efforts are not wasted. You were meant to hear this not because it promises comfort, but because it offers truth. And truth, when received at the right time, has a way of changing the direction of a life. That is what she speaks out to leave behind. Not a doctrine. Not a formula. But a lived example of resilience, humility, and unshakable self-belief.